Welcome to a new Daily Top Askreddit video. Today's topic.
Those who haven't caught COVID yet, how have you managed to avoid it? I didn't avoid COVID, COVID avoided me. As goofy as that sounds, some people just aren't as susceptible. In a household of 5, 3 of us got it, and my husband never did, despite being around our youngest a lot and sleeping next to me while I was unwell and prior to my having taken a test. He didn't get it, and it wasn't for a lack of exposure to 2 confirmed cases. Likewise, the middle kid, who even rode with me in the car in close proximity to get tested negative, despite having symptoms of something. Maybe it'll catch up with him at some point, but so far it seems like it did indeed avoid him. Edit to add that Hubs tested negative several times. Edit 2. We've always been as vaccinated and boosted as we can be. As soon as we've been able to do so. I'm an ear doctor who has been neck deep in COVID for over 2 years. We are talking face to face, staring directly down people's mouths during intubations, having them cough all over me with no mask because they refused to wear one or were absolutely sure I don't have it. Having all my coworkers and my former roommate, while we were living together, get it. Still clean. No symptoms, tested negative a number of times. I kept thinking during the real spikes that I was gonna get a phone call about the government wanting to take my blood to test for antibodies. Sue, here, take this back. Sue. Me live in cave. Me never see people. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'm just a caveman. I fell on some ice and later got thawed out by some of your scientists. Your world frightens and confuses me. Sometimes the honking horns of your traffic make me want to get out of my BMW and run off into the hills, or wherever. Sometimes when I get a message on my fax machine, I wonder, did little demons get inside and type it? I don't know. My primitive mind can't grasp these concepts. But there is one thing I do know. When a man like my client slips and falls on a sidewalk in front of a public library, then he is entitled to no less than 2 million in compensatory damages and 2 million in punitive damages. Thank you. Edit. The original SNL sketch if anyone hasn't seen it. I hate people and I don't like to be touched. Let's be friends. Actually, never mind. I once worked with a guy for 3 years and never learned his name. Best friend I ever had. We still never talk sometimes. Ron Swanson. I live in Gary, Indiana. Not even COVID wants to come here. What do you call a man from Gary, Indiana who has a big dick? Hungarian. Gary, Jerry, Gergich. I got a brain tumor and I got isolated in a hospital about 1 year ago and now I'm just trying to keep distance from people. There were probably easier ways to avoid COVID than the route you chose. But I respect the dedication. On the rails though, hope you kick that tumor's ass. I haven't had it yet and I don't know how it's possible. All my colleagues, my whole family, and my friends have had it. Some people have super immunity to it. The wonders of genetic differences. I followed all the rules like a good little boy, but I had to do field work all through the pandemic and worked in close prox to others. Testing regular. I have no goddamned idea. I suspect I'm just immune to it at this point. I had every reason to catch it. I thought the same thing and then finally got it late last week for the first time. Seems like a lot of my friends who never had it before are finally getting it. For your sake, I hope you are really just immune because it super sucks. Thought I was finally getting better yesterday, and then it took me back down. My mother has tested positive twice but was never sick. If people don't feel sick and don't get tested, it doesn't mean they never caught COVID. Yeah, I think this is part of the answer. My brother only found out he had it because he had to fly back when he needed a negative test, so he got a test thinking it was a formality and he was positive. Even got a follow-up. Same deal, but 0 symptoms. Felt fine. Just no flying for him that week. As a person that hasn't had it, I wonder if I'm in the same boat or just lucky. Time will tell. Vaccines, masks, you know, the shit they told us to do. Same here, but I think luck and genetics had something to do with it. My wife and I both managed to avoid it until this past summer. On Thursday we had a friend over for dinner. On Friday she tested positive, and my wife and I began isolating together. On Sunday my wife tested positive and we began isolating in-house. I tested daily for over a week. Never positive. We've both been double boosted. Then bivalent. And continue caution. Luck definitely does have a lot to do with it. But so does being careful. I'm a dad of an immunocompromised child and the son-in-law of an immunocompromised mother. We've been on top of all vaccines. Mostly isolating when things get worse. Like they are right now with a secondary pandemic of other respiratory diseases that were a lot quieter during the local more lockdown periods. And masking in any crowd situation. We've managed to avoid it. But there's still very good odds of being in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong person. Anytime I see a COVID particle coming at me, I duck. If you can dodge a COVID, you can dodge a ball. I'm always congested. COVID can't get in. I hardly ever get sick, but I have terrible allergies the rest of the time. I wonder if there's any truth to this for the same reason we hear about the flu and COVID. Outcompeting each other. Flu and COVID, outcompeting, also has a lot to do with the fact someone infected with one tends to isolate, and on a broader societal scale people tend to isolate a bit more and take greater precaution when there's outbreaks. Also, aside from that, allergies aren't the same as an infection if we are talking about competition.